Hello everyone and welcome to Ukulele Underground University, Ukulele 102 week number 4. My name is Aldrin Guerrero and I'm joined by Mr. Aaron the Voice Nakamura. Say what's up, Aaron?
What's up?
And Mr. Kahai, the legend for again. Say what's up, Kahai?
What's up?
And together we bring to you week number 4, Chord Family. So we are almost halfway through the course and we have one more week and then we're going to take a little bit of a halfway break, and I'll give you folks some kind of some review stuff to go over. But first off, let's tackle week number 4. So let's take a look at what got us to this point. So week 3 review. We learned major and minor scales last week. So major scales, we learned the major scale formula, which is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. We learned why major scales are important and how to use them. So why are major scales important? We learned that major scales and scales in general will basically tell us which notes are right and which notes are wrong when we're playing a song. And if you go outside of the scale, it's gonna sound different. It's gonna sound I like to use the word sour. It's like a sour note, and it's not sweet sounding. Is what I like to refer to them as. We want to be able to play good sweet notes, and in order to do that, we learn our major scales, or we'll just learn scales in general. How to use them? We plug in that formula of whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, and then we basically just use them for picking patterns or for additions onto our finger picking, or just if you want to make your chord sound a little bit more fancy. All right. We also learn minor scales. So we learn the difference between minor and major scales. So major scales would be whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That's how you create a major scale. And the minor scale is whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. We also learn how to use minor scales. So just like how we did with our major scales, when we have a minor chord progression, we're going to be using the minor scales, and that's going to give us that kind of mood that it sets. And just like I put down in number C or letter C here, use them to set up an emotion or mood. So a major scale sounds like this, whereas a minor scale sounds like this. So when you hear a major scale, it almost sounds uplifting, it sounds happy, and it sounds complete. Whereas if we played with a minor scale, uplifting would barely be the word that I would use for it. I would use maybe sad, gloomy, dark kind of sounding songs. So it just depends what kind of mood or what kind of emotions you're trying to squeeze out with the tune that you're playing or with the song that you're trying to create. You would be using a minor or a major scale. All right. And like I mentioned, we tried to tie it in with the finger picking patterns that we were doing the week before. So you remember we did F, D, G minor, C7, and we noticed that we can use any one of those extra notes with our finger picking pattern. So if you know major and minor scales, you can plug those in. So if I were to play my C chord, my major scale being, I can add any one of those notes to my C chord. And it'll still sound pretty good. All right, so that's how we use our major and minor scales. You can pick or minor scale. All right, and of course we can also use them to create little melody lines and songs that we want. Okay, any questions on what we did last week? All right, pretty straightforward. How did you guys do on those on those scale exercises? You guys did pretty good. Let's go over our C major scale. All right, everybody play with me. So it's going to be, let's just play the scale for now, then we'll do one of the exercises. All right, ready? 1, 2, ready, go. One more time, go. All right, now let's pick that first exercise, which sounds like this. So we're doing trying to work our way back down. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time, go. Alright, and if you guys want to do those exercises, you can download last week's PDF where we have the exercises for you ready to go. Yes.
I think you made it even like a little bit more interesting or like challenging by doing pull-offs for all of them.
I see.
So,
See, yeah, we did
the
that.
actual one.
Alright, so for those of you folks that like that kind of challenge, you can add that pull-off in there. And like I said, it is with the handouts, the PDF handouts from last week. And for those of you folks who are UU Plus subscribers, head on down over there and download those PDFs if you haven't already. Okay? So this brings us to our week 4 goals. So this is what we're gonna try to do for this for today and for the rest of the week. We're going to understand what chord families are and how to identify them. We're going to break down chord progressions, and we're going to create our own progressions. So this is what we're going to try to achieve today. And well, we're going to try to understand how these work today, and we're going to try to put them into our own playing throughout the week so that we can understand them. So this is our week 4 goals. We want to understand what chord families are. So I'm going to tell you what chord families are and how you're going to be finding them on your ukulele. We're going to be breaking down chord progressions. So, you know, when I was starting out how to play the ukulele, I would only use my, I'd use my ear to figure out songs. I didn't have the internet. I didn't have, too much chord books, laying around. So I had to rely on Old Faithful over here. So I'd put on some records. I'd put on some tapes. For those of you that remember tapes and CDs, I would be using those in order to figure out my songs. And I noticed that songs in general, they have pretty much the same chords that appear over and over again. And I've noticed that each one has a set of chords that happens over and over again. For example, if if I found that one of the chords would be G, then most of the time it's going to be G, C, and D. That will sound good with that, with that chord. Or if I found an F chord, for example, most of the time it'll sound good with F, B flat, C7, and F. And I'm sure you folks have noticed that when you go to your ukulele clubs or when you pick one of the songs that you play, you're gonna notice that, okay, if I'm playing an F chord, most of the time I will also have the B flat chord, the C7 chord, D minor, G minor, and A minor. So today our goal is to understand why that is so. We're going to be breaking down chord families and chord progressions. So chord progressions are chords, a group of chords that happen over and over again. It just kind of progresses. So we sometimes have F, G, C. So that would be our chord progression. So we'll be breaking that down today into why that works and why that sounds good. And we're also going to be creating our own chord progressions. So now that we know what chord families are and we've broken down progressions in general, we want to be able to create our own. Okay, so are you guys ready for today's journey? Let's get started. Is there any questions before we dive into it?
People are just joining into the chat for now.
Okay, great. If you guys are just joining us, welcome to Ukulele 102. If you guys have any questions, please use the live chat and let us know what your thoughts are. If you have any questions or any comments like that, we are live, so ask away and we'll be able to answer you as soon as we can. Any one of these two gentlemen is going to be relaying those questions and messages over to me, and I'll try to answer that as best as I can, and also with the help of these two gentlemen as well. Okay. Anything else you guys want to add before we move on? Okay. All right, there we go. So I noticed that last week we had a little bit of a misunderstanding. If we were to use that word, but between the differences between a note, a scale, and a key. So the key, what we're gonna do is we're gonna save that for the final reveal. All right. And I want to show you folks the difference between a note, a scale, and a chord first. And after we learn the chord families, I'll reveal to you what the key is, and it'll have you get kind of a better understanding of what a key is. All right. So first, a note is the pitch and length of sound coming from our ukulele. So if I were to play A string 3rd fret, that is a note. Okay? If I were to play A string 5th fret, that is a note. So this is a note, this is a note, this is also a note, and this is a note. So the sound coming from our ukulele and the length. So if I were to hold it for maybe 1 beat, that's going to be a quarter note. It gets quarter of the measure, and it is a C note because that is the pitch, and the length is a quarter, so it's going to be a C quarter note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're holding it 1 out of the 4 possible beats, therefore it's a quarter, and it is a quarter note. So if I were to strum this, it is not a C note, it is a C chord because notes are single. Okay, it's singular. This is a C note. All right, now next up is a scale. What is a scale? A scale is a sequence of notes that sound good starting and ending on the same note. All right, so I explained earlier, this is A major scale. So think do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And as far as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do goes, the whole thing is a scale. From do to do is a scale. Now, that sequence of C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and each one of those being a note, like how we learned earlier, that creates our scale. And last week we learned how to create those scales. But just the definition of a scale is a sequence of notes that sound good starting and ending on the same note. So from this C to this C. Notice that they're the same note, just different octaves. And you're probably wondering, oh, you introduced a new word. What is an octave? An octave is basically the same note, but just with a higher sounding pitch. But the pitch is the same. But this one sounds higher, but the same note. Whereas these two are not the same notes. It sounds completely different. Okay? And last but not least, a chord. A chord is 3 or more notes that sound good together. So what a chord is when you play it all at the same time. 3 or more notes that sound good together. So when we strum our ukulele, we strum chords, these are 4 notes that are working together, and I would say in harmony, to create chords. Alright, so a note is a single note, a scale is the sequence of notes, and a chord is 3 or more notes put together that sound good. It can be a major chord, it can be a minor chord. So those are more notes that sound good together. So those are all chords. Any questions so far?
Yeah. I think so last week some people are getting confused, and it's fine to get confused,
Yeah.
but like all these things are terms.
Yeah, the terminology.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that the terms are good for when you're talking to somebody else,
Yes.
but when it comes to actually playing and when it comes to actually doing stuff,
Yeah.
it's the ideas behind
Yeah,
it that are more
very,
important.
very good that you added that, because yeah, when I'm trying to convey these these ideas to you folks, of course I'm going to be using the musical terms, and it kind of makes it easier for for me to explain these things. But once you're kind of into it, me as a musician, I use those terms, yes, but during the actual application, I don't think like about keys or whatever. It's really just patterns on my ukulele, and these are terms that help me describe what patterns I'm doing on my ukulele. So the notes scale, and chords. So, I would say, oh, we're in this, I'm going to use a C major scale. In my mind, I'm like, I'm going to do this. And I wouldn't even say scale in my mind. I would just think, oh, C. So we're in C, where I'm going to use C scale because I want to play the right notes, just like how we did last week. I want a ham and cheese sandwich. I don't want a ham and anchovies sandwich. You know what I mean?
So if I think if this week if people are getting confused by terms and stuff, keep watching, try and digest what you can.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Then, it'll come, the terms
It
come
will.
eventually, but
But
that's not the key points.
I think what people are mostly getting confused by is the key. So we got kind of a chicken and egg situation, with that because we'll talk about it in the end when we kind of reveal to you folks what keys are and scales and using chord families. All right. So we're going to be working with this term right here, which is chords, and we're going to be finding which chords will sound good when we play a C scale. Okay, so the C scale matches with these chords, and we're going to be calling them the chord family. Any questions so far?
So not a question, but Chris mentioned that
Yes.
Neo Chin's last seminar or workshop
Last week, yeah.
was it was all about scales and what chords you can play with it and stuff. So he said it was very helpful.
Good.
Yeah, and I think if you for this one we're trying to stay very broad with the theory terms,
because
right?
we think of this as still the bridging the gap between intermediate and advanced, because as an intermediate player you might know all your chords and know how to pick here and there, but in order to bridge that gap from intermediate to advanced, knowing terminologies like this will help out a lot, and we don't want to overwhelm you folks with too much information, so we're trying to do it in bite-sized pieces, so to speak.
Yeah, and if you kind of have you have the basics understanding, and then you want to go into Neil goes into Mixolydian, tonic.
It's a bit much, but not saying that Neil is not an amazing teacher. He is really, really, really good, but we're trying to bridge the gap between intermediate and advanced. But if you're an advanced player, all these terminologies, Neil Chin kills it.
And if you're looking, maybe if you're looking to go into more detail, definitely check it out.
Yeah, definitely check it out. All right, so what are chord families and why do I need to know them? I get this question a lot because I play with a lot of musicians, and a lot of the musicians locally that I play with are just kind of playing by ear and just playing by feel. And that's how I was when I was starting out. I just like I said, I would learn the song by ear and I would just kind of see patterns. But knowing what chord families are, it kind of helps me take a shortcut, basically, so I don't have to really use my brain and kind of think okay, well, which pattern am I going to be using? If I know the chord families, it's just right away, it's almost automatic. Okay, now what are chord families? Chord families are chords that sound good together based on the key. All right, so key, let's just think about key as the scale. So for now, let's just approach this word as if it was scale. All right, so chord families are chords that sound good together based on the scale, and you'll see later on when we create our chord families. 2, why should you learn chord families? Now you're asking why. Why do I need this? Because if you know chord families, then you will know what chords to expect in a song. All right, if you're jamming a song and you've never played it before, knowing chord families are going to give you an idea of what chords could come up or what chords will come up in that song. B, know which chords sound good together. So you might notice that if you're gonna play a chord and a chord might sound like the word I used earlier, it might sound sour or might sound a little bit out of place. Knowing the chord families will let you know which chords will sound sour or which notes will sound out of place in your song. So if you want to avoid giving your audience the sour chords, chord families are the way to go. All right, so C, it helps us compose our own songs. So think blueprints. Chord families kind of let us know which chords sound good, just like in our point B here. So because we know which chords sound good, we can pretty much cherry pick which chords we want to use to convey our idea in song. So if we had blueprints as to how to create a song, these chord families will kind of let us know which ones to use for our blueprint in the song. All right? So this is what chord families are and how to use them. So chord families are chords that sound good together based on the scale. All right? So if you are playing in a C major scale, there are certain chords that will sound good and there are chords that will sound bad on that scale. So here are the chords that will sound good on that scale. C, D minor, E minor, F, G, B diminished, and C. I know that went kind of fast, and that's kind of the point. How did I know that those are going to be the chords that sound good? If I were to play anything that's not in that chord family, it's not going to sound as good. So here it is. So I'm going to use the same thing. So as soon as I hit that D, although it's not too, obscure of a chord, as soon as I hit it, it just doesn't even, it doesn't seem like it belongs there. That's at B flat. It's already going to sound off. And all those notes sound good because they are in the same chord. Oh, sorry, chord. Yeah, those chords sound good because they are in the same chord family. All right, now how do we create chord families? So identifying family members in a major key. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick any major key, and I always like to use the C scale, C major scale, because it has no sharps or flats. So I'm gonna bring up my handy dandy whiteboard again. Sorry for the glare. There it is. So let's create our C scale based on what we learned last week. All right, so we know that we're gonna start and end in C, and I wrote out the A right here, and I actually even wrote out the sharps and flats in red so that you guys can kind of get a better idea of those. I wrote this out a lot better this week. So C, we're gonna do our formula of whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So C, then whole, whole, half, whole, whole, so that brings us back to the A, whole, half. So let me write that down for you folks using what we learned last week. Here we go. So whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. There it is. So from the C, we said that this kind of straight line was a whole step, and another whole step, and this diagonal line here is a half step. So from the E to an F, and then another whole step, which brings us to the A, another whole step, and then half step. So whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Okay, any questions so far? We learned that last week. So if we wrote out the scale, it will be all the notes that we landed on: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. There are no sharps or flats that we landed on in the C major scale. All right. Now, let's take a look at this right here. This is the formula. So the formula is going to be I, big letter I, small letter 2 I's, small letter 3 I's, big I, big V, small letter V, small letter I, small letter V, two small letter I's, and this nice little degree sign over there. And of course, it is Roman numerals. I just kind of wanted to let you folks know what that was. But Roman numerals, Roman numeral, big Roman numeral 1, then small 2, 3, then big 4, 5, small 6 and 7, but with a degree sign on the 7. All right, and how do you read that? Now, 1, 4, and 5, since they are big Roman numerals, let's call them majors. Those are going to be majors. 1, 4, and 5 are going to be majors, and the small Roman numerals are going to be minors. So 2, 3, and 6 are minors, And the last 7 with the degree sign is going to be a diminished. So this is our formula. Very simple. 1, 4, 5, 2, 3, 6. So there's 3 majors, 3 minors. 1, 4, 5, 2, 3, 6. Say it with me. 1, 4, 5, 2, 3, 6. 1, 4, 5, 2, 3, 6. Now let's plug that in there. So let me kind of clean up how I wrote the C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C so that it lines up with my scale family here. C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So that kind of lines up. So that's our 1. Oh, so that's our 1. So that means C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished. And that's how I got that so fast. If I were to write it out in full, it'll be like this. C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, and B diminished. Here it is. Plugging in our formula. Oh, let's do it a little bit higher. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. Those are the chords that I played earlier when I was just kind of riffing on the uke there.
For the people who might not be familiar, can you say like why you didn't put like C major, something next to C?
Oh,
to
yeah,
recognize?
very good point. Now, if we put C, it's always going to be assumed that it's a major. So unless you state that it's a minor, we will always assume that it is major. So for example, I said, oh, let's give me this the F scale. You will always give me an F major scale. You're not gonna give an F minor scale. Let's just say, it's the same thing when we play our chords. I'm not gonna say, oh, the chords are F major, B flat major, and C7. So we don't say that, right? So same thing with the scale. We don't say C major scale. We'll just say the C scale, or we don't say C major and put the major in there and then D minor. So unless it's anything other than the major, then you don't have to declare what it is. Does that make sense?
And then
Okay.
the minor is just a little M.
A little m. Little m. Okay. There are some instances where you write out the major. For example, if you have a major 7, but don't worry about that for now. I don't want to confuse anybody, but I know there are some people who are wondering like, oh, how about the major 7s? Don't worry about that for now.
It's kind of just like shorthand, right? Like major scales and major keys are used so often in music that when you kind of
Yeah,
like
it's common.
when you say like, oh, we're
Yeah.
playing in C or we're playing in G or F, it's like, oh, okay, that's probably C major, right? Like nobody's gonna think, oh, what they meant was they're playing in the C blues scale.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
So I'm gonna show it to you folks one more time. Remember 1, 4, 5 and 2, 3, 6. So 1, 4, 5 are majors, 2, 3, 6 are minors. So I will play C, F, and G, and I have D minor, E minor, and A minor. I know I have diminished chords in here, but we rarely use diminished chords, so I'm gonna not worry about this for now and just focus on the majors and minors to just kind of help me along. And later on, once I get a little bit more advanced, then we can kind of start to include our diminished chords. But for now, let's focus on the majors and the minors, just to help things be a little bit easier. So here it is. I'll play C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and back to C. Because 8 will just be back to C. It just repeats over and over as we learned last week. Now, if I played anything that isn't in the chord family, this is where it gets kind of sounding out of place. For example, if I were to play an E major instead of E minor, it wouldn't sound too good. So it goes like this. it sounds out of place. Now there are times where you can use out of place, out of place chords to convey that kind of story that you want to do with your song. But for the most part, we want to stick to the blueprint and play the chords within our chord family. All right, so that is how you create your chord family. 1, 4, 5 majors, 2, 3, 6 are minors, and 7 is a diminished. Now you're probably saying, do I have to play it in that order? No, absolutely not. These are just the notes that you or these are just the chords that you can play together. So if I were to pick any 2, 3, 4 chords, so we usually play a lot of 4-chord songs. So if we pick 4 chords, we can create ourselves a 4-chord song, and that will mean that we can pick any one of these chords and it'll sound good together. So for example, let's do C, of course. Let's take C. Let's do E minor, F, and G. So C, E minor, F, G. Those are chords from our chord family. Let's plug them in and let's play those chords. So it goes like this. C, 1, 2, 3, and then over and over again. Sounds pretty good. Let's pick another, maybe just do a 3-chord song. Let's do F, G, A minor. So we don't even have to have that, the one major. Let's do F, G, A minor. It's gonna sound really cool. So here we go. Let's do F once, G once, A minor twice. Just kind of keep it, even. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go F. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have Aaron Nakamura play these chords, and if if our theory is correct, because we are in the key of C, I can play the C scale on top of that, and every single note will be correct. All right, so here we go. Aaron's gonna play it for you. This is what it sounds like.
The same one?
Yeah, same one. F, G, A minor.
Okay.
Here we go. 2, 3, 4, go. And I can play any notes from there and start to create kind of a song.
Sorry.
So our theory is correct. You can use those notes and you can use the notes in the scale. Oh, you can use those chords and the notes in the scale in order to kind of create a song already. And all the theory lines up, and that's how people write songs. Okay. 7 is a diminished chord, and we can add that in there and it'll work exactly the same. So for those of you folks who are kind of wondering about that, let's just do that really quick. Let's do C and maybe B diminished, and then F, and then back to C. Okay, so C, B diminished, F, back to C. Here we go. So nice and simple. As you folks know, that I'm only playing the notes in the scale. I'm not playing anything outside of it. If I were to play something outside of it, this is what it would sound like. So just kind of reiterate our good note versus sour note. Ready? Same chord. C, D, B diminished, and F. 1, 2, ready, go. I'm like trying to make it fit in any one of those, but it sounds like I'm trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. So once as long as you're playing in the same scale with the same chord family, everything will sound just sweet.
So, Chris asked, isn't
Yes.
a lot of this intuitive for major scales? Lots of examples of people becoming famous musicians not knowing much about music.
Yeah.
Making it more complex with minor and diminished takes education, I understand. However, many of the greatest songs are simple.
Yeah, well, you have those chords that are available to you, and that's why I like to reiterate like emotions and mood, because you can just use all the major chords in our chord family, but adding those little minor chords in there are going to be what gives it that special kind of special ingredient to let the audience be taken for a ride, because I like to think of songs as stories. Even a simple song like Mary Had a Little Lamb. Mary, like, we're talking about the story of Mary and her lamb whose fleece was white as snow. So we're still like telling a story, and using chords we will be able to tell that story. So for example, if I were to use that chord, that chord family, everything is in major and it sounds so very sweet, but then I'll add a little minor in there, maybe one more. Then I'll go major and be happy again as we land on C. So there's ways to kind of manipulate the song to better tell your story. All right, so you can be famous with just using 1-4-5, and that's now you guys will know what we mean whenever musicians say, oh, we're gonna play a song that's 1-4-5. So if I say we're gonna play a song that's in 1-4-5, you're gonna know CFG. I know that because I watched Ukulele Underground
Well,
102
in the key of C.
in the
right?
key in the key of C anyway. Yeah, 1-5 in the key of C, because I watched Ukulele Underground 102 week number 4. All right, so that is how to identify family members in a major key. All right, questions?
Well, like on the last question, I think Chris hit an important thing, is that he said making it more complex with minor and diminished takes education. I
Yes.
understand, but there's musicians who didn't have music
No.
education who really did incredible songs
Yeah.
without without having names to it early.
Yeah. The Beatles, for example, the Beatles
Yeah.
wrote many great songs, and they did not know music theory when they first started out.
Well,
And it's-
we've talked about this. Well, we talk about this in the office a lot, where music theory is describing music.
Yes.
It's a way to describe music, and so it looks at all music and finds patterns within it, and then kind of writes it down so that other people can it's easier for you
Yeah.
once you know music theory.
Yeah.
And so that's all this is really. It's
Yeah.
just saying music, you might intuitively be able to create a song without music theory, but music theory, once you know it,
Yeah,
it makes
it makes it
everything easier, and it makes you'll see the patterns, everything will make sense.
Yeah.
I think. Well, and then
You don't need it, but it's
So
just
it's just
something-
this
yeah.
much, just a little bit of music theory is all that's needed to kind of bridge the gap between intermediate and advanced. Because an intermediate student will be able to create all sorts of songs and be able to play all sorts of songs without needing to know music theory. But if you want to go from intermediate to advanced, or just be a solid intermediate player, then you might want to start kind of diving into some basic music theory, because
Yeah.
these are just very basic music theory. People are music majors, and do music theory for years, and still not know everything. So you only really need to just scratch the surface in order to have a good idea on how to create good music.
Yeah,
I
and
think-
it's kind of fast tracks you too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because because you might have to spend a bunch of years playing a lot of songs in the key of D sharp or something,
Yeah.
to figure out what chords usually go good together in D sharp,
Yeah.
or you could just write this out and then
just automatically know.
it. Yeah.
Well, I think of music theory, or the beginner music theory is about narrowing because you could look at chords and be there's hundreds of chords. How do I choose which one to use?
Which one will
Yeah.
sound
And then
good? Yeah.
This
Yeah.
one just narrows it down to
Really quickly.
here's 7.
Yeah.
Here's
Yeah.
7 that will
Yeah.
sound good.
Yep.
And then like when you go more in depth with music theory, then it's like, oh, we're gonna take you back out to the hundreds.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna expand, and then we're gonna say like why it sounds good too. So, yeah.
So yeah, very important. Yeah, describing music, and just being kind of able to know it and play it naturally. Like we know what sounds good, but these are why it sounds good. Okay. Now next up, so let's try to apply it. So we did just that. Any combination of chords in the chord family will sound good together. We we tried that out earlier. We picked some chords out, even added one with a diminished in there. Still sounded good. If a new chord is introduced to the family, it will sound different or out of place. And we did that as well. So instead of an E minor, we played an E major. Now, if that sounded weird, imagine putting a chord that wasn't in that family at all. Like maybe like a B flat chord. And I showed you folks earlier that I did C, D minor, E minor, like went to B flat. It's just completely out of out from left field. So that's kind of a general rule. You can introduce new stuff, and that just all goes with what you're trying to convey with your song. But for the most part, to stay safe, you want to pick stuff from the chord family. All right, so from here we can create our own 2, 3, or 4 chord songs, just like how we did just now. We picked 3, 4 chords. You can do it with with 2. That'll be the most basic. But that is how we create our 3, 2, 4 chord progressions. All right. Any questions? That's just kind of as a warm as a wrap up.
And then it's not limited to 4 chords though, right?
No, you can have as much chords as you want in your progression, but using the chord family as kind of the blueprints to which ones you're gonna use is very good. Is a good idea.
Yeah, and bringing it back, like the songs we hear the most are usually like simple chords or simple 4 chord songs. So.
Okay, so let's try it out with with something else. So we know it works in C. So let's just keep doing it so that we can reinforce this idea in our brains, and we can kind of see it from other chords as well. So let's try to do the F major chord family. So I'm gonna erase everything here. So that just kind of leaves us with what we had in the beginning. I'll show you folks in a second as soon as I'm done here. So it looks like this. Back to that. Okay. Now from the F, we're gonna go F, whole, half, because whole, which leads us back here to the A, half, whole, half. Okay, I'm gonna write it down so you guys can kind of get a nice visual. So from F, whole, half, whole, half. Here it is. So from F, we have G, A, B flat, C, D, E, then back to F. Whole, half, whole, half. It all stems from that. Okay, now let's write down our scales. Basically, do we have any sharps or flats? Just one sharp or flat. So this is kind of how you do it fast. I showed you folks last week as well. Just write out the full alphabet. So from F to F. F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. It will always be that sequence. Okay, now we have one sharp or flat, and that is a B flat. You wouldn't call it A sharp because you already have an A, so it's not going to be an A sharp. It's going to be a B flat. Why? Because you do not have a B. So that kind of lets you have F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. I should have written it down like... it's okay. So with the chord family, we have F major, G minor, A minor, B flats, C, D minor, and E diminished. There it is. Bada boom. Bada boom. realist scale in the room. How you doing? All right, so F, G minor, A minor, B flat, C, D minor, E diminished. Let's try this out, shall we? Here we go. Oh, there it is. It's kind of a I've already written it down. So F, G minor, A minor, B flat, C, D minor, and E diminished. Back to F. Now let's pick, let's do maybe a 3-chord progression here. Let's, how about you pick, Kahai? Any one of these 3. Try to stump me.
So I say like B. What if I say B?
B flat, okay,
Or,
B flat. B flat. That's 1. Give me 3.
Well, no, I thought you meant like choose from A, B, C, D. Like. The
Oh no. Yeah,
progressions
pick 3 chords from our chord family.
okay.
B flat,
B flat, D minor,
D minor,
F.
and F. Okay, so B flat, D minor, and F. Let's call this the Kahai song. So it goes like this. So let's do one measure in B flat, 1 measure in D minor, and 2 measures in F, just to keep it. You know, you can use 1 1 1, but I like to use a more even kind of pattern. So 1 1 and then 2. So that's an even number of measures. Here we go. 1 2 3 B flat, D minor, and then F. Sounds pretty good to me. You can even like add notes with your voice if you want. This is Kahai's F chord song. This is Kahai's F family song. You know, I like how it went. This is Kahai. See the mood there, like change a little bit. This is Kahai's F family song. Back to back to a nice happy feel with the last major chord in there. Good choices, Kahai. Aaron, let's do an Aaron song.
Oh,
Give
thank
me
God.
give me 4 chords. Give me 4 chords, Aaron. Any one of those. Any progression, whatever, you know.
A minor,
A minor,
D minor,
D minor,
B flat, F.
flat, F. Oh, I'm going to F for the last. So A minor, D minor, then what? B flat,
Yeah.
then F. Okay, here we go. So A minor, D minor, B flat, and F. This is Aaron's minor sounding song. Sounds good. I'm trying to create lyrics. It sounds really nice because it starts off in that kind of minor sounding sad mood, and then it kind of lifts it back up with that B flat and ends in a nice F. Good choices, Aaron.
It's like a Coldplay song. We want to sound pensive, but then we want to make you feel good later.
So we can either create our own chord progressions, or we can go with some of the more common chord progressions. Remember, I said earlier that I've noticed that some groups of chords would always appear together pretty much all the time, and this is why. So let's play 1 4 5, the progression 1 4 5 in the key of F. So that would be F, B flat, C. So it goes like this: 1 2 3 4 F, B flat, C. That is a 1 4 5 progression. Here's another common chord progression. It's a 2 5 1. So 2 would be G minor. Sorry, G minor, C, and then F. So G minor is the 2, C is the 5, F is the 1. So here we go. 1 2 ready, go. G minor. Okay, another one is 1 6 4 5. I like to refer to this as the either the surf chords or the 50s music chord progression. So it goes 1, 6, 4, 5, F, D minor, B flat, and C. I should use this instead as a little bit of a better visual. 1, 6, 4, 5. 1, 6, 4, 5. So F, D minor, B flat, C. Let's try that out. It goes F, D minor, B flat, and C. This is a 50s sounding song. Every song from that era used pretty much 1, 6, 4, 5. All right. So another one, 1, 3, 2, 5. Okay, 1, 3, 2, 5 would be in F. Woo, one more time. 1 F, 3 A minor, 2 G minor, then 5 C. So F, A minor, G minor, C. F, G minor, A minor, G minor, and C. F, A minor, G minor, and C. Or if I played it faster, you guys might probably recognize it. No? Maybe if I did it in A. So let's take a look at our A major chord family. So we already kind of wrote it out for you folks. You know how to do it now. So it's going to be A, B minor, C sharp minor, D, E, F sharp minor, and G sharp diminished. That's kind of how we how we got that. I can write it down for you guys if you want. But let's take a look at that 1, 3, 2, 5. Once again, 1 A, 3 C sharp minor, 2 B minor, and 5 is E. So if I play it a little bit fast, this is what it sounds like. Somebody's heart's doing the tango.
Jessica.
Jessica's heart's doing the tango. And that's why that song works, because those chords are part of the chord family. And even, if we were to break down the picking pattern, all those notes are going to be part of our A major scale. So I wrote out the same common chord progressions in A. So 1, 4, 5 is going to be A, D, and E. Now 2, 5, 1 is going to be B minor, E, and A. It goes like this. Now if I syncopated that, it would sound like this. It might sound a little bit familiar. Thursday morning, we were preparing for this lesson. All right. So those are just common chord progressions, and we can use this kind of, if you want to go with the tried and true kind of progressions, you can use some of these common ones that we showed you folks, or you can create your own chord progression. Now you were saying I was saying that after all of this, it's pretty much going to tell us what a key is. Now, let's go back to that term, key. If we were to take a look at this, I'm going to organize this a little bit better so the visual is better here. The key will summarize everything. G, A, B flat, C, D, E. So, this is our scale. This is our chord family. And we are using the F major scale, or the F scale. Now, what the key is it refers to all of this. So if I say, I'm in the key of F, that means we will be using the F scale, and we will be playing chords from the F chord family. So when someone says, oh, this is going to be the key, you will then know which notes to play and which chords to play. So here's a quote. If I'm playing in an F major, then I will be using the F major scale with the F chord family, and that gives me the key. So the key of F, or in the key of F, we will have F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, and the chords F, G minor, A minor, B flat, C, D minor, E diminished.
Yeah. So, but you
Nope.
might not be playing all of those.
No.
Like
These are
you-
just So in the key of F, you will have all of those. And like how we did earlier, you can pick from the common chord progressions. So for example, we did 1 4 5 in the key of F. 1 4 5 will be F, B flat, C. So that's what that means. In the key of C, 1 4 5 will be C, F, G. Or let's use this example right here. So in the key of F, or key of F. Key of F, F, G minor, A minor, B flat, C, D minor, E diminished. So in the key of F, our 2-5-1 chord progression is going to be G minor, C, F. But in the key of A, our 2-5-1 is going to be B minor, E, and A. So the key refers to all of this. So the key will tell you which scale to use and which chords are going to be popping up in that song. Any questions?
So in the chat, Alan and John.
Yes.
Alan said that
Mm-hmm.
I like that when you start thinking by numbers, it's
Yeah.
easier to change the key of a song.
Yes, it is.
A lot easier.
It is a lot easier. That's another advantage of learning chord families, and it's if you want to transpose things. So if I'm singing Thursday morning, we prepare for this lesson. Thursday morning we play this song, and if that's a little bit too high for me, maybe I'll choose something lower. So I will choose a chord with a lower pitch. So maybe G, because I know G is lower than A. So the 2-5-1 in G, 1 2. So G A will be A minor. So 1 2 3 4 5. D will be a D major, and then of course G will be my 1. So if I played, I now know the chords that I'm going to be playing pretty easily. Like I just transposed that song in less than a minute. Yeah. And if I sang it, it'll work. Thursday morning we prepared for this lesson. Notice that it's a lot lower instead of Thursday morning we prepared for this lesson. And we could even go higher and higher and higher. If we tried to do maybe that 2-5-1 in C, it'll be D minor, G, and C. Thursday morning we prepared for this lesson. Alright, so those are just the common chord progressions, but you can also create your own chord progressions, and that's what scales, notes, and keys are. Any questions before we move on to the exercises that we have prepared for you folks?
So I think it was Yoda. Yoda asked if you could go over the diminished shape.
The diminished chord shape. I like to look at it this way. So imagine if you were to play kind of a 7th chord. So let's do B diminished. A 7th chord, a G7 chord shape. Okay, so the G7 chord shape. And I'm just going to add my pointer finger to the top. I'm using my my middle ring and pinky finger for the G7 chord shape, so that my pointer finger is available to play that note right at the top. So if I line up that pointer finger with my middle finger, it gives me a diminished chord. So that's all. If you just look at it like this, it'll be a lot easier for you folks to create your diminished chord. And any note, here it is again, any note that this chord shape touches is going to be that diminished. So it's touching the B note, it's going to be a B diminished. It's touching the F note, it's also an F diminished. It's touching the D note, it's D diminished. Touching the G sharp, A flat, it's going to be G sharp, A flat diminished. Now that's kind of advanced, but just kind of give you an idea of of diminished chords. So this is a B diminished because I'm playing that A string 2nd fret.
So Devin asks, is the diminished shape, is that up and down the neck?
Yes. Yeah, it can go up, but it repeats every 4. But that's a little bit,
Yeah.
beyond what's going on right now. So let's not get into that because I don't want to confuse the rest of the audience. But that's how you create the shape. So if you're just interested in the shape, that's how you create the shape.
If you're playing a diminished chord, that's pretty much how you would
Yeah,
play it.
that's how I would play it. I would create a G7 chord shape with my middle ring and pinky finger, adding the pointer finger to the top. Let's not confuse people with any more details.
Yeah.
About the
Did you want to
diminished.
go over the?
Yeah,
that
that's what I was gonna do
circle of-
before we finish. So I want to introduce the exercises first.
Okay.
So let's do the exercises. So the exercises I got for you folks are basically just doing the C, F, and A chord family that we went over. So the first exercise is just down, up, down, up, down, up, 4 counts and changing each time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and just going up that chord family. So that's the first one. Then I think I did. If you want to do that part along with me. And the second one, we kind of added a strumming pattern. So the F chord family, but we added down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up. And then the last one, exercise C, is basically the A chord family, but just doing it in a waltz. So 1, 2, 3. So down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. I don't know if that was right. Maybe. Yeah, that's it. I missed it by 1. There it is. Okay, so those are available for download over on UU Plus. You can download those exercises to kind of get you playing those chord families. But I think the best thing that you could do right now to exercise and to kind of to make these ideas stick in your head is to write it out, pick out and create your own chord progressions, or plug them into a common chord progression. Now, you're probably saying, I don't want to be writing all that stuff out. So over on Ukulele Underground, we have what's called the Circle of Fifths. So it's a printout of this exact page. So you're going to have the Circle of Fifths right here, and you're going to have this awesome little thing, and what you're going to do is you're going to put this on top of this, and it's going to look like this. So that it only highlights the chords that you need. So right here it says chord family. Whatever key, so you guys know what keys are now. Whatever key you want, so maybe the key of F, you're gonna put that right in the middle. So let's do this so people can get a closer look. So key of F. The key of F, the top row are majors, the bottom row are minors. So F, B flat, and C are majors. G minor, D minor, A minor are going to be the minors, and down here, a little bonus, diminished. So does this work for every single one? Yes, it does. Here's if we're in the key of C. C, F, G, D minor, A minor, E minor, then B diminished. Let's go to a crazy one. Maybe let's do E. In the key of E, E, A, B are the major chords, and we have F sharp minor, G sharp minor, and C sharp minor, and also an E flat diminished. Maybe that. So same thing. So you can use this wheel to kind of let you know what chords belong in that key. So have the key right on top, and it'll tell you those notes. And not only does it tell chords, not only does it tell you the chords, but it also tells you the notes to play in that scale. So F will have the notes F, B flat, C, G, D, A. So if you just take out the minors, that'll give you the notes in that scale. All right. So same thing, C, D, A, C, D, A, B, G, F, E. Those are all the notes in a C scale. If we do G, everything all good in there with an F sharp diminished. Oh, here, yeah, there's. Okay,
Yeah.
and another thing that I would kind of suggest for you folks is to print out this this awesome little handy dandy fretboard chart. So this kind of charts out this your frets, so first, second, third, fourth, fifth fret, all the way down to your 16th fret, and these are your strings, G, C, E, and A strings. And what I like to do for practice is I like to just highlight the notes in a specific scale. So here I've highlighted the notes in a C major scale. So in a C major scale, no sharps or flats. So I just highlighted all the notes. Now I know this seems like kind of a crazy mess right now, but what you do is I like to separate them into quadrants. So maybe if I want to just do the first three frets on my ukulele, frets on my ukulele, those are going to be the notes that are safe in the first 3 frets. Maybe if I want to do the from frets 5 through 8, I can do this, and then frets 5 through 8, those are the notes that are available. And then I look at them on my ukulele, so, and then from 5, that's kind of all the notes that was in there. So dun 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 dun. So these first 5, I'm gonna bend it like this, so it's a little bit more clear. There. So this whole fret right here, this whole fret, and then these 2. So ba da 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 da. Those are all going to be correct notes in the key of C. So these are a couple of handouts, or not handouts, but printouts that you guys can print out in order to get the most out of music theory, and just have little cheat sheets. So this is kind of a cheat sheet. So this is your cheat wheel and cheat sheet.
Yeah, and that's all in the resource section on Ukulele Underground.
Yep.
So go print them out.
All right, so next week we're going to be learning some harmony. So yeah, I know we've been kind of picking with just kind of 1 notes. Next week we're going to be picking with 2 notes. Now, how do you do that? Tune in next week to Ukulele Underground, Ukulele 102. My name is Aldrin Guerrero, and on behalf of Aaron and Kai, we'll see you folks next week. Have a great one. Play your uke. Aloha.